Madam Speaker, we have heard several contributions to this budget debate, Madam Speaker, and there really isn't much for me to say. But it would be remiss of me not to place on record my support for this budget 2017-2018. Madam Speaker, this budget under the title Realizing a Modern, Prosperous Dominica is, Madam Speaker, one which all right-minded Dominicans and those who listened to the masterful presentation of that budget by the Honourable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance will say is a budget of hope, a budget of purpose, a budget which espouses modernization, and, Madam Speaker, a budget of progressiveness. Madam Speaker, the budget addressed by the Honourable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, one line states as follows: our economic goal of realizing a modern, prosperous Dominica fits well within our overarching vision of a peaceful and just Dominica. Madam Speaker, the last part of that is as important, I would suggest, as the former, which is a peaceful and just Dominica. Because, Madam Speaker, when all is said and done, the budget presentation, all of the fiscal measures, and all that is contained within the budget, the objective, Madam Speaker, is for the people of Dominica to be able to experience a just and peaceful existence in this beautiful land of ours. Madam Speaker, the budget clearly addresses the requirement for us to progress by way of modernization, and it does so in a number of respects. And a number of the speakers, Madam Speaker, have pointed out that the budget is clearly following an agenda, a planned agenda for the development of this country, and following the historical progress that the country has made under this government. And, Madam Speaker, it is clear, if one looks at a few of the measures in the budget, that that is so. As regards the issue of modernization, Madam Speaker, you and those who listened would have recalled that the Minister for Finance, the Prime Minister, made reference to a plan for, in effect, an improvement, a rebranding of Roseau and of Portsmouth, and that there were measures that would be brought forward to ensure that that improvement, renaissance of those two areas took place. Madam Speaker, the budget also addresses the needs of middle-income families and middle-income individuals insofar as housing is concerned. Thirdly, Madam Speaker, in relation to small businesses, there is a clear thrust to improve and expand upon the existence of small businesses in Dominica, even including putting small business operations on a legislative footing. Fourthly, Madam Speaker, the improvement in air access to Dominica. And you will recall, Madam Speaker, the reference to the ongoing moves to shortly introduce direct flights to Dominica from the United States in the first instance. And of course, Madam Speaker, the plans, the concrete plans for the development of an international airport in the near future. And finally, Madam Speaker, in the matters that I am referring to, the construction of a multi-purpose sports complex. Madam Speaker, if one looks at those items together, one will see that they really address pretty much the whole gamut of the existence of a person. So the environment that one lives in, the development or improvement of the towns of Roseau and Portsmouth, or should I say the city of Roseau and the town of Portsmouth, the personal development of the individuals by way of the middle-income housing proposals, the development of individuals and small businesses, which are the nub of many societies, and the access to Dominica, or I should say access and exit, the means of getting into and departing from Dominica, thereby also contributing to the economic development of Dominica, and of course, a sports complex which will address the health needs of Dominica and Dominicans. So, Madam Speaker, how does this manifest itself? Well, Madam Speaker, there is the address of the tax threshold. And this government has consistently, from coming into office, reduced the tax threshold. Madam Speaker, I think it was $15,000 or thereabouts when the government came in. And that has been steadily reduced, and it has been a constant theme of the government that it intends to reduce increase the threshold, but reduce the amount of tax that individual taxpayers pay from the monies that they earn. And Madam Speaker, a $30,000 tax threshold is a significant threshold in an economy like ours. When one takes into account the earnings of the workers and considers that, in effect, what that will mean is that every person earning some $2,500 per month or thereabouts will pay no income tax. Madam Speaker, I think that that measure is a very significant measure indeed, and will go a long way to assisting individuals to be able to better enjoy the money that they earn. And of course, the budget didn't stop there. The Honourable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance made it clear that he would desire to see a tax rate of 35% at least in the first instance, and that his ultimate goal would be the elimination of income tax altogether. Madam Speaker, it's quite clear that if, and hopefully when, we are able to get to the position of perhaps first a 35% rate and then elimination, or maybe we can get to elimination without stopping at a 35% rate, that of course that would be a wonderful thing for all of those who work in Dominica. I would very much like, Madam Speaker, to be able to take home all that I earn, and I'm sure I'm not the only one in here who is in that position. Madam Speaker, geothermal. This, Madam Speaker, is an interesting element, because the Leader of the Opposition, and it's been addressed by others, so I don't intend to go into it in any detail, but Madam Speaker, it was astonishing to sit here and hear the Leader of the Opposition, some would say a Prime Minister in waiting, or at least a Prime Minister hopefully. He would doubtless hope that the people of Dominica would someday give him the opportunity to sit, as somebody says, in that chair. And to hear a person in that position come to this House and say to the listening world that a geothermal project that has been ongoing for a number of years, that has shown its development, that has shown that experts basically in the field from the major countries that know about this type of thing, that they support it. They support it not only by their words, but, Madam Speaker, they have contributed their support by way of their taxpayers, the taxpayers of their respective countries. They have shown that by way of grants and by way of loans. We're talking about countries like New Zealand. We're talking about countries like United Kingdom. We're talking about CISDOC, that organization. These have all indicated by way of finance, hard cash, that this is a project that they support, that this is a project which is in the benefit and interest of the Dominican population, the Dominican consumer. The government has explained how that would benefit the population, the individual consumer, those of us, all of us have electricity at our homes, how it would also benefit industry, commerce, trade, and for the Leader of the Opposition to stand up and say that if he were in the position to do so, that he would effectively abolish this whole project, Madam Speaker, is utterly astonishing. And it is even more astonishing that he seemed to express a belief that the monies that have been pledged to this project by these various governments and by the World Bank could simply be switched to another project. And, Madam Speaker, The Honourable Minister for Housing dealt very eloquently with the, I should say, foolishness of that whole concept, Madam Speaker. Demonstrated very clearly that what was perhaps the sole counter-proposal of the Leader of the Opposition in his response to the budget was completely without foundation and without merit, and, Madam Speaker, was really something which demonstrated a lack of comprehension and understanding of what would really be in the best interest of Dominica and the consumers in Dominica. Madam Speaker, the geothermal project is soldiering on, and I look forward to the day in the not too distant future when we will all be enjoying the fruits of geothermal energy, and we will all, Madam Speaker, be enjoying the benefits of the increased commercial activities that will flow from the reduced cost of electricity. Madam Speaker, that takes me to the issue of CBI, which was addressed in the budget and which was also addressed in the response. Madam Speaker, we are all aware, I suspect, of what I describe as the unconscionable behavior and actions of the opposition, and in particular, the Leader of the Opposition, in respect to the CBI program in Dominica. And the CBI program, Madam Speaker, is one which I think I am well placed to speak on. It is something that I have defended over the years that I have been in this office, because I have been, Madam Speaker, intimately involved in that program. For it to be suggested, Madam Speaker, that the CBI program in Dominica is any less secure, is any less rigorous, any less robust in its operation than any of the other CBI programs that are operated in this region and perhaps, Madam Speaker, around the world, it is really either to be mischievous, wicked, or ignorant. Madam Speaker, the CBI program that we have been running in Dominica has had and still has the support, and by use of the term support, I mean involvement of leading due diligence companies, not Dominican companies, but internationally recognized due diligence companies. That has been said repeatedly. Repeatedly, that has been said by myself, by the Honourable Prime Minister, by other ministers, by officials. Yet still, the Leader of the Opposition and others persist in claiming that there is no due diligence or that the due diligence that is conducted is inadequate. And they do so, Madam Speaker, without a shred of evidence that what they claim is correct. As we know, Madam Speaker, the program has been running for many years. It was started under the Freedom Party, and the United Workers' Party, when it came in, did not abolish it. They continued it. They called it a re-engineered program, but they continued it. And, Madam Speaker, there is no way under the sun that the program that United Workers' Party was operated with a more rigorous due diligence process than what is in existence now. So for them to be making the allegations that they're making is really, Madam Speaker, rich. It is even worse for them to be conspiring and collaborating with foreign entities, some might call them foreign economic mercenaries, to destroy our citizenship by investment program. Again, Madam Speaker, they do so without offering, as the Leader of the Opposition did in his response, without offering any substantive alternative proposals. They do not say what they would do differently and how they would do it differently. More importantly, how they would do it better. Madam Speaker, the monies, the revenue that this government has been able to raise from the Citizenship by Investment Program is of extreme importance to each and every Dominican. As has been said, we don't know how long the program will be able to remain in existence. There are matters as regards the program that are not necessarily within our control. But, Madam Speaker, what we should be doing as a country and as citizens, that's the opposition as well as the government side, is doing everything that we can to ensure that the Citizenship by Investment Program is sustained and exists for as long as possible. We should not, Madam Speaker, and it seems to me, and I would say with no hesitation, that no honourable, honest, and true patriot of this country could be seeking to undermine the Citizenship by Investment Program. Madam Speaker, I would simply say this as regards the program. The facts speak for themselves. The figures, as enunciated in the budget, clearly demonstrate that the Citizenship by Investment Program has put us in a position where we have a budget. And funny enough, we've got to the position now that we have been debating a budget for the past several days of over $500 million. In fact, we are over $750 million. And Madam Speaker, it's not very long ago that many would have been looking forward to that $500 million budget. You remember, Madam Speaker, we used to come with 300 million, 350, 400. I think there was even one point when the leader of the opposition was suggesting that, you know, we're not doing anything because St. Kitts are this. And so, Madam Speaker, what I would expect is to hear the leader of the opposition and the opposition jumping up and saying, hooray, hooray, we are going places, we are flying. But that's not what we're hearing, Madam Speaker. What we're hearing from them is an attempt to denigrate what is being done by this government, to denigrate the achievements of the government, and in fact, by extension, to denigrate the achievements of the Dominican public. Madam Speaker, that is really something that the opposition ought to ask itself serious questions about. They ought to ask themselves whether that is really the way they want to go, whether what they see is to take the term opposition in its literal sense and simply oppose for opposing's sake, or whether they want to make themselves a relevant opposition, which is founded in opposing on principle and on merit. So, Madam Speaker, if something is wrong, they think, by all means oppose. But, Madam Speaker, it seems to me what they should be doing is saying, this is proposed by the government, it is wrong, and it is wrong for these reasons. And these are the ways in which it can be improved. This is the way in which, if I were in power, if we were in power, this is how we would do it. This is how much we think this will cost. For example, Madam Speaker, in the response, as has been said, I don't recall hearing a single utterance from any of the members on the other side as to how much any of the proposals that they were suggesting would cost. So in other words, anybody can say, we should do this, we should build a castle, we should build 10 castles. But how are you going to pay for the 10 castles? And how much are the 10 castles going to cost? Not one of them said anything of that nature, Madam Speaker. And indeed, interestingly, the actual suggestions, such as they were, came from various members of the opposition, but not from the leader himself. So, Madam Speaker, I will seek to conclude by just addressing a few concerns that I have, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the first of those is the opposition's approach, and led by the leader of the opposition, as regards the issue of electoral reform. It's been touched by other speakers, so I don't wish to go into it in detail. But, Madam Speaker, it is of importance. Because, Madam Speaker, remember that the government came to this House with bills, House of Assembly Elections Amendment Bill and the Registration of Electors Amendment Bill, to this House with two bills addressing the areas and the issues that the opposition have for years been complaining about, been agitating about, been bringing people out on the streets, been claiming that this or these issues are a problem. And the government, having taken time to listen to the views of the opposition and to others, put together bills and brought them to this House. The opposition, Madam Speaker, despite claiming that the matters in those bills were critical to the very democratic framework that we understand, and in fact our democratic existence, what did they do? They agitated, they brought protesters and ne'er-do-wells to gather, to congregate outside the precincts of the House of Assembly. And, Madam Speaker, those bills were not proceeded with. We now still hear calls for what they claim is cleaning of the list. But, Madam Speaker, the bills that they agitated against and demanded be withdrawn contained provisions for re-registration. In effect, Madam Speaker, cleaning of the list. They claimed they wanted identification cards. The bills that they agitated again and insisted be withdrawn provided for identification cards. Madam Speaker, everything that they asked for was contained in those bills. And they did not say, Madam Speaker, that they wanted A, B, and C. They simply said they wanted those bills withdrawn and not proceeded with. I wait to hear, Madam Speaker, what they're now going to say, because really it seems to me the ball is in their court. They claimed that they were doing so because the government was seeking to legitimize bribery and cheating. Well, Madam Speaker, I want to put it on the record, because I have not yet spoken on this, but I just want to put it on the record, that I certainly do not take kindly to the suggestion that I was involved in seeking to legitimize anything that is illegal. And I certainly know that the government was not seeking to do so, and it would not have been the case. The government was simply clarifying the law. That was what it sought to do. The law is what it is. But it seems, Madam Speaker, that some of us, and we see it demonstrated time after time in this House, some of us have hard heads. And we only see and hear and understand what we want to see, hear, and understand. And so, therefore, it was necessary to spell out in clear terms, in black and white, what is there for them, but in a term which would allow them to understand it quite clearly. And perhaps, Madam Speaker, it is that concern, that fear that they had, that now they would no longer be able to be claiming that there was bribery, that there was cheating. And maybe, Madam Speaker, it was that caused them to take the actions that they did. But I hope, Madam Speaker, that they will be able to live with the consequences of their actions. Madam Speaker, there's another issue of importance that I think the House is the place to raise it. It may be dealt with further elsewhere, but it is the behavior, Madam Speaker, of commissioners of the Electoral Commission. Absolutely disgusting and unacceptable behavior, Madam Speaker. It cannot be right, Madam Speaker, for persons who have been appointed to the Electoral Commission, a body of the significance of the Electoral Commission, to be sitting on that body and then leaving that body and going outside and discussing in the public what takes place in that body. Madam Speaker, that is not something that we would entertain and accept in the Boy Scout movement. It cannot be right, Madam Speaker, for that to be happening in this country. And it's very difficult for me to understand how members of the opposition, the leader of the opposition, and all of the other members of the opposition can feel that it is right for that to take place. And I have to say they can feel it's right because I am not aware, I've not heard any of them condemn it, and as far as I can make out, none of them have condemned it. And Madam Speaker, that behavior is behavior that has to be condemned, and in my humble opinion, those commissioners, if they cannot conduct themselves in a proper way, should be removed by whatever means. They should be removed from that commission because they are not, in my respectful view, fit and proper people to serve on such a body. If you cannot respect basic decency, basic courtesy, and basic norms, how then are you able to come and claim that you are the guru of governance? The opposition always talk about governance. If you can't respect basic decency, which is what that is, you're in a body, you're appointed, how can you be going outside and talking about what is taking place in that body, even to the point of saying who said what? It means that the body cannot function properly. So, Madam Speaker, I had to place it on record here in this House because I think this is the way it should be placed, that behavior, in my view, is unacceptable, and I will maintain that, and I will do whatever I can to ensure that those who are appointed to those bodies such as that conform to the proper norms and conduct themselves properly. And if they cannot do so, that, Madam Speaker, the appropriate course.
You have 4 minutes left.
Madam Speaker, I would simply finally go to the issue of the rule of law, which is really moving from where I just was. Madam Speaker, the rule of law is critical to any society. And we have found ourselves in Dominica at a place where law seems to me, when I go about my business daily, that people seem to feel that they can do whatever they want. And we see it in this House, time after time. So certain members feel that they don't have to regard the rules. Whatever they think should happen, that's what should happen. Doesn't matter what the rule is, is what they think. And that seems to be permeating the wider society. And Madam Speaker, it's something that we need to take seriously and we need to do something about. We see it, Madam Speaker, in the prevalence of firearms and even the increase in use of firearms. And Madam Speaker, I take the opportunity here to say this. This House in 2011 passed legislation, firearms legislation, repealing the formerly existing legislation, and bringing in legislation which was stringent in terms of what it was intended to do. I would call upon those who have the responsibility for enforcing the law to bring to bear the force of the law as it is now. Not as it was, as it is now. Parliament, it is Parliament that makes the law and determines what the law is. The courts interpret it. And Madam Speaker, this Parliament, and I believe that the bill as it then was, which became the Act, the Firearms Act that now exists, number 3 of 2011, I believe my recollection is correct, that it was supported by both sides of the House. So, Madam Speaker, the Parliament is very clear that what should prevail is strong sentences for those who find themselves in possession of firearms and ammunition unlawfully. And I would really like to see that those responsible for ensuring that the law takes effect do so and reflect the Act as it now stands. Madam Speaker, that may well be by way of increased sentences, it may be by other means. But Madam Speaker, I certainly would support increased sentences to reflect the Act as it now stands. Madam Speaker, I think with those few words, I really would simply say that I have no hesitation whatsoever in giving my wholehearted support to this budget. It is a budget that really we look forward to being able to develop on in the year to come. Madam Speaker, thank you very much.